Hey folks, Professor Long here. I'm going to be going over the muscles of the leg. I'm actually going to break this up sort of into the muscles of the upper leg and the muscles of the lower leg. And what I like to do is put the muscles in an order that allows me to just walk around in order the whole leg from the top part and then from the lower leg, or from the proximal and the distal leg. Now, these are not going to go in the order of your list, but this is the order that I learned them. I'm going to lay the model flat this way. We're looking at the toe side of the inside of the leg, so this would be medial. Back here near the gluteus maximus, there's a muscle here called the Adductor Magnus. This muscle comes straight down here called the gracilis. And then this muscle right here near the front is called the Adductor Longus. So Adductor Magnus, gracilis, Adductor Longus. And then this long skinny muscle here is the Sartorius Muscle. It actually extends from the iliac crest all the way down to the inside of the tibia. So, Adductor Magnus, gracilis, Adductor Longus, Sartorius. Now, if I rotate the leg back up a little bit, you guys can see the kneecap here. We're looking at the front of the leg. This was the Sartorius. So this muscle that runs straight up and down the front of the leg is called the Rectus Femoris. Medial to that, meaning medial finding the big and the little toe, medial and lateral. Medial to the Rectus Femoris is the Vastus Medialis, and lateral to it is the Vastus Lateralis. Deep to the Rectus Femoris is a muscle called the Vastus Intermedius. You cannot see it on the model, but it lies deep to this. That group is referred to as the quadriceps group, so when someone damages their quads, it's one of those muscles. Now, I'm going to rotate the model a little bit more to the outside here. We're looking at the outside of the leg. There's the little toe. If I come back up, this muscle up here is called the Tensor fascia latae. It gets its name because this is also sometimes called the lateral fascia. On our list, we know it as the iliotibial tract. It's also called the lateral fascia or the lateral fascial band. So this muscle tenses that, hence the name Tensor fascia latae, iliotibial tract, and then the gluteus maximus here. Both of these muscles here are actually the vastus lateralis, but they're covered here by the iliotibial tract. If I roll it to the back side of the leg, we see the gluteus maximus here. It's going to come and insert laterally between these muscles. And so on the lateral side, I see the biceps femoris. And then this muscle is called the semitendinosus. And while it's hard to see, there's a little groove here that separates the semitendinosus from the muscle underneath called the semimembranosus. And then we're back to the Adductor Magnus, gracilis, and so on. Now I'm going to go to the lower leg. I'm going to start at the front again. So let me rotate the leg around. You can see the patella or kneecap buried in some connective tissue here. I can see the tibia. The muscle that lies on the front of the tibia here is called the Tibialis Anterior. The next muscle would come down here and it extends the digits, your toes. Just like we have an extensor digitorum longus in the arm, we have an extensor digitorum longus in the leg. There is a brevis in here, but it's not on our list. So, Tibialis Anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and then this next muscle is going to run all the way down here. It has a tendon that runs by the lateral malleolus of the fibula. That's called the Fibularis Longus. And of course, anytime there's a longus, there is a brevis down here, not on our list. Fibularis Longus. Now, I have to continue to rotate the leg to the outside here. I can see this Fibularis Longus. There's a dividing line right here between this muscle, which we know as the calf muscle, is the gastrocnemius, and a muscle called the soleus. Now, the soleus runs almost all the way down to the sole of the foot. The gastrocnemius, let me rotate the model a little bit, is that famous calf muscle that we see on people's calves. It stops short and it pulls on the calcaneal bone or calcaneus by the calcaneal tendon or calcaneal tendon or calcaneus tendon. The calcaneal tendon is also known as the Achilles tendon. So gastrocnemius, Achilles tendon. On either side, I see a sliver of the soleus sticking out here and here. Finally, I'm going to go to the sole of the foot. And I've got to do this from a weird angle. I'm sorry, but I just can't help but do it the way that I can. On the sole of the foot, there's a muscle that runs here and flexes the toes. That muscle is called the Flexor Digitorum. And there's a piece of connective tissue that runs all along and covers all of this, but they cut most of it and reflected it. But this piece of connective tissue here can be called the plantar aponeurosis, or it's also called the plantar fascia. You've heard of plantar fasciitis. That's when this piece of connective tissue, again, most of which is missing, but it would run here, gets inflamed and hurts. Anyway, Flexor Digitorum, plantar fascia, or plantar aponeurosis. Either answer would be acceptable by me on a lab test. Hope that helps.